Why your past still controls your present. Have you ever wondered why certain memories continue to influence your life, even years after they happened? Perhaps it was a painful rejection, a harsh criticism, a betrayal, a failure, or maybe it was something much smaller. A comment someone made long ago, a moment of embarrassment, a childhood experience that seemed insignificant at the time. Yet somehow, those moments continue to shape the way you think, feel, and behave today. Why? Why does the past hold such power over the present? The answer begins deep within the architecture of the human brain. Contrary to what many people believe, your brain was not designed primarily to make you happy. It was designed to keep you alive. For our ancient ancestors, survival depended on remembering important experiences. The brain constantly asked one critical question: what can this teach me about staying safe? If a particular plant caused illness, the memory was stored. If a certain location contained danger, the memory was strengthened. If a social interaction led to rejection or conflict, the lesson became valuable. The brain learned from the past in order to prepare for the future. This ability helped humans survive for thousands of years. But it also created an unexpected consequence. The brain became exceptionally skilled at preserving emotionally significant experiences, especially painful ones. Psychologists often refer to this as emotional memory. The stronger the emotion attached to an experience, the more likely the brain is to remember it. This is why you may struggle to remember an ordinary Tuesday from 5 years ago. Yet you can vividly recall a painful argument, a humiliating mistake, or a moment that changed your life forever. The brain treats emotional experiences as important information. It stores them carefully, and it revisits them often, not because it wants you to suffer, but because it believes those memories may help protect you in the future. The problem is that the brain sometimes becomes too protective. A single painful experience can create lasting expectations. Imagine a child who is repeatedly criticized whenever they express themselves. Over time, the child learns a lesson. Speaking up is dangerous. Years later, that child may become an adult who avoids sharing opinions. Not because the danger still exists, but because the brain continues operating according to an old emotional blueprint. The past becomes a filter through which the present is interpreted. And most people do not even realize it is happening. Psychologists call these mental frameworks schemas. Schemas are internal models of reality created through experience. They help us navigate the world efficiently, but they can also distort perception. A person who experienced betrayal may become hypervigilant in relationships. A person who experienced rejection may become sensitive to criticism. A person who experienced failure may begin avoiding challenges altogether. The original event may be over, yet its influence remains active, like an invisible script running quietly in the background. This is one reason people sometimes find themselves repeating the same patterns, the same arguments, the same fears, the same relationship dynamics, the same emotional struggles. They believe they are responding to the present, but often they are reacting to the past. Imagine carrying a pair of tinted glasses without realizing it. Every experience you have is viewed through those lenses. The world itself may not have changed, but your perception of it has. And perception influences behavior. Behavior influences outcomes. Outcomes reinforce beliefs. And the cycle continues. Many people spend years trapped inside these unconscious cycles. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack willpower, but because the patterns operate beneath awareness. The human mind loves familiarity, even when familiarity causes suffering. This may sound strange. Why would anyone repeat painful experiences? Because the brain often prioritizes what is familiar over what is healthy. The known feels safer than the unknown, even when the known is uncomfortable. This is why some people repeatedly enter similar relationships. Why others repeatedly doubt themselves. Why some continue fighting battles that ended years ago. Their minds are attempting to solve old problems using present-day situations. And until those patterns become visible, they remain powerful. But awareness changes everything. The moment you recognize a pattern, you create distance between yourself and the pattern. You begin seeing it rather than unconsciously living it. And that is where transformation begins. Because the past may explain you, but it does not have to define you. But recognizing the influence of the past is only the beginning. The deeper question is this: if the past continues shaping our present, can we ever truly break free from it? The answer is both simple and profound. Yes. But not by erasing the past. Not by pretending it never happened. And not by fighting against every painful memory. Real freedom comes from changing the relationship we have with those memories. Many people spend years trying to forget. They avoid difficult emotions. They distract themselves with work, entertainment, or constant activity. They convince themselves they have moved on. Yet beneath the surface, the old wounds remain active. Like roots hidden beneath the ground. Invisible. But still influencing everything that grows above them. Psychologists have discovered that unresolved emotional experiences often continue affecting behavior long after conscious awareness fades. You may no longer remember every detail of a painful event, but your nervous system remembers. Your emotional reactions remember. Your habits remember. Your fears remember. This is why certain situations trigger surprisingly strong emotions. A small disagreement feels overwhelming. A simple rejection feels devastating. A minor mistake creates intense anxiety. The present moment activates an old emotional pattern, and the brain responds as if the original danger has returned. In reality, you may not be reacting to what is happening now. You may be reacting to something that happened years ago. This realization can be life-changing, because it reveals an important truth. Not every emotion belongs entirely to the present. Sometimes the mind carries unfinished stories. Stories seeking understanding. Stories seeking closure. Stories seeking healing. One of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, Carl Jung, believed that many people spend their lives unconsciously controlled by parts of themselves they refuse to examine. He called this hidden aspect of the personality the shadow. The shadow contains emotions, memories, fears, and experiences that we push out of awareness. Not because they disappear, but because they feel uncomfortable. Yet what remains hidden often becomes powerful. What is ignored continues influencing behavior from the background. The experiences we refuse to face often become the experiences that control us most. This is why self-awareness is so important. Not because awareness instantly removes pain, but because awareness removes invisibility. And what becomes visible can finally be understood. Imagine walking through a dark room filled with obstacles. You keep stumbling. You keep getting hurt. You become frustrated. Then someone turns on the light. The obstacles remain, but now you can see them. And once you can see them, you can navigate around them. Self-awareness works in much the same way. The goal is not to eliminate every scar. The goal is to understand how those scars influence your life. And perhaps nowhere is this more important than in the stories we tell ourselves. Every person develops an identity, a narrative about who they are. Some people carry stories like, "I am not good enough. I always fail. I cannot trust people. I am unlovable. I will never succeed." At some point, these beliefs may have formed as emotional defenses. They helped explain painful experiences. But over time, they become prisons. Because the mind begins searching for evidence to support them. Every mistake reinforces the story. Every rejection confirms the belief. Every setback becomes proof. This is how the past quietly shapes the future. The story becomes stronger. The identity becomes more rigid. And life begins revolving around beliefs that may no longer be true. Fortunately, the human brain possesses an extraordinary ability, a capacity known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change, adapt, and create new pathways throughout life. For decades, scientists believed the brain became fixed after childhood. Today we know that is not true. The brain remains capable of growth. New experiences create new connections. New habits create new pathways. New perspectives create new possibilities. This means the patterns formed by the past are not permanent. They are influential. But they are not destiny. Every time you challenge an old belief, the brain changes slightly. Every time you respond differently to a familiar trigger, new pathways begin forming. Every time you choose awareness over automatic reaction, you weaken the grip of the past. Transformation rarely happens overnight. Most meaningful change occurs gradually, like a river slowly reshaping a landscape. At first, the progress feels invisible. But over time, the difference becomes undeniable. The fears become smaller. The reactions become calmer. The patterns become easier to recognize. And eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop identifying entirely with your past. You begin seeing yourself as something greater. Not the events that happened to you. Not the mistakes you made. Not the pain you experienced. But the person who survived those experiences. The person who learned from them. The person who continues growing beyond them. This shift changes everything. Because when people define themselves by their wounds, healing feels threatening. After all, if the wound disappears, who are they? But when people define themselves by growth, healing becomes liberation. The past becomes a teacher rather than a prison. A source of wisdom rather than limitation. A chapter rather than the entire story. And perhaps this is one of the most powerful truths about being human. You cannot change yesterday. You cannot rewrite every mistake. You cannot erase every painful memory. But you can choose what those experiences mean. You can choose the lessons you carry forward. You can choose the story you continue telling yourself. And that choice has the power to transform your future. So if you sometimes feel trapped by old memories, if you find yourself repeating familiar patterns, if you wonder whether your past has already determined your destiny, remember this. The past may have shaped you, but it does not own you. It may have influenced your path, but it does not control your next step. Every moment offers a new opportunity, a new decision, a new perspective, a new beginning. And perhaps healing is not about becoming someone different. Perhaps healing is about becoming who you were before fear convinced you otherwise. Because beneath every wound, beneath every mistake, beneath every painful memory, there remains something untouched. Your ability to grow. Your ability to change. Your ability to begin again. And that possibility exists right now. In this moment. Waiting to be chosen.